I was born at the beginning of our participation in the First World War. And my birth provided a respite from the war from my father, because as a new father, he was exempted. And he always thanked me for that. So I began on the right side of the family. So for the most part, I grew up on the south side of St. Louis. I grew up in the neighborhood of Anheuser-Busch. And it was always the most important element of the city. My mother was born in New York of immigrant Hungarian family, both her mother and father. And they were in the restaurant business, Hungarian restaurant. It was a fairly large family, maybe 5. But she was very anxious to get out of it. So she went to secretarial school and learned such mysterious things as shorthand. My father immigrated from, I believe, Poland, but he often changed his origin, so it was never clear. And he never told me much about his boyhood or his beginning or his education or anything. I knew very little about him. But I do know that he had a relative who had a fur shop in St. Louis and who brought him to St. Louis from New York. At the time he married my mother, she was very anxious to get out of the house. The relative that had employed him decided that he wanted to go back to the old country. So he called to my father and said, I'm going to hand you over the business. St. Louis was, maybe it still is, I don't know, but at the time St. Louis was a great hub of the fur market. So there were a lot of furriers. But soon after, we began to benefit from the affluence of the time. The terrible bust of the Depression knocked us off our perch. My father had put all of his funds of his business in the Night and Day Bank. He hadn't buried it. Everything was there. And in very short order, when he went to the bank, there was a big sign on the door that said close. They promised to pay a penny on a dollar, they never did. And we were thrown into the maelstrom of the Depression. And that's where my most vibrant memories begin. King of the Hill is when, spiraling down, we wound up in a third-rate hotel. I call it something else in the book, but it was actually the Westgate at the corner of Kings Highway and Delmar. It was on the 3rd floor, one room, the 3 of us, and by then, while there, I guess, my brother was born. So it was almost impossible for four of us to live in that room. And my brother was shipped off to a family in Keokuk, Iowa, which was not unusual for that time. There was a great deal of people being shipped around in order to accommodate the poverty that quickly assailed everybody. And surprisingly, when I came to the point where I wrote King of the Hill, all of the memories, without any kind of a notebook to record them, everything that happened was, to me, as if it had happened the day before. So there was the advantage of verisimilitude. It was true, it was real. It was not made-up suffering. It was the kind of suffering that everybody in St. Louis was having at that time.